Okay, so it should be on now, but we'll just give it a few more minutes here. Just hold on for a second while I set up here. Excuse me here. So, if anyone is out there, just let me know if the sound is okay. If it's not, if there's some issue with the sound, let me know and I'll try to fix it. All right. And I am just setting up, so just give me 1 second while I access YouTube on my computer here, so that way I can check out the live chat as it's going on. Okay, great. We're ready to go, ready to rock and roll. So, all right, Begbie80 is here. Good day, Isaac, my dear friend. Hello. Sound is good. Thank you. SJS Films. Hello. Thank you very much. Varan Raju, hello, my friend. The Cinematheque, thank you. The Cinematheque, I think I responded to your comment to the favorite films video, so thank you very much to you and to everyone else who commented there. I've tried to respond to as many as possible, so great. Battle J Royale, yes, hello. Carl's Ransom Reviews, hello. Dion, hello. Greetings from the Netherlands. Hello, Dion. How are you? Mike Eli from Las Vegas. Hello. You know, I had the great pleasure of visiting Las Vegas once, and it was really quite lovely. I had a great time. I would love to go back there again one day. Let's see. Daniel Brito, good day, guys. Hello, Daniel. It's nice to see you. I hope you're well. Wolfgratz, our dear friend. Alan Finlay, hello. Hi from Scotland. Hello, Alan. Whenever I see your name, I automatically recall the film The 39 Steps with great affection. So thank you very much for reminding me and reminding us just how great that film is, The 39 Steps, you know. I should say that when I was a kid, I spent a little bit of time in the United Kingdom. I lived, it was because my father, at the time he was transferred, I don't know what the exact details were, but there was a period in the late 80s, early 90s when he was living in London. And so I was about, what was it? I would have been about, gosh, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that. It was around the time, I don't know if you know England, but it was around the time of Edwina Currie and the Salmonella egg crisis, and it was Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister, and there was the show Spitting Image on television, and also Australian soap operas were really popular, you know, the Australian soap opera Neighbours, and there was the show called Home and Away. I was actually living in England the time that Home and Away debuted, and it was really nice. I enjoyed that show Home and Away very much, and I really enjoyed Neighbours when I was there. I remember that I was there at the time when Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan were on the show, and they were an item on the show, and I thought they made quite a nice couple, and on the show anyway. I don't know if there's anything romantic off you know, behind the camera. I'm not sure, but they also released that single. What was the song called? It was called Especially For You. I don't know if you know that song, Especially For You. I really like that song, Especially For You. Maybe you can watch it on YouTube. Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan's Especially For You. But I'm sorry, what am I saying? But the point is that during that time, I was watching a lot of VHS tapes, and my parents, bless them, were very kind in that they would buy, not so often, but every once in a while, they would buy VHS tapes in these thick clamshell cases. Do you remember? And sometimes we'd go to the W.H. Smith, and you can get VHS tapes there, or other places like that. And this was also time you had Tower Records around, HMV. I think HMV was around at the time, I forget. But there were these, you know, records, and there were still records there, and the like. And I remember my my father purchased for us, the family, the 39, no, it was, yeah, the 39 Steps, and it was the remake, right? It wasn't the Alfred Hitchcock original, it was the remake, but I enjoyed that very much. I thought that was a lot of fun also. He also bought The Lady Vanishes, but that also was the remake as well. That wasn't the Hitchcock film, it was the film with Elliot Gould and Sybil Shepherd, right, and Angela Lansbury. You know, it's quite an interesting film, the remake of The Lady Vanishes. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you have the opportunity, it might be worth watching. You know, I really, I love the Hitchcock film The Lady Vanishes very much, and that film I don't think will ever be topped. It's for me, I think, my probably one of, if not my most favorite of Hitchcock's British period. But so I think it has many advantages over the remake of the remake with Angela Lansbury. But the one place I thought where the remake got it right was, I thought the tune, you know, the tune that it's a kind of a very important thing, or it's probably like the MacGuffin of the film. You know, the tune. I thought the tune that they used in the Lady Vanishes remake was actually much catchier than the tune, the rather somber, funereal tune that was used in the Hitchcock film. So I thought that the tune that they used in the remake was actually really good. But I'm sorry, I'm getting way off track here. So, my friends, I just wanted to once again say hello to you and greetings from Tokyo. This is Daisuke. And my dear friends, it is always a pleasure, always a great pleasure to be able to talk with you and to listen to your conversations and thoughts and comments about cinema and about things of that nature. I was very fortunate to have basically made a very random live stream, I think a couple days ago, and I was able to meet a lot of people around the same time of night, actually. And I was able to meet a number of people, and so I just wanted to do that once again and just let you know what was going on, and we can go from there. So the first thing I wanted to let you know, and I wanted to get your thoughts about this in real time, to see if you have any constructive criticisms to make. I'm not sure, but what I was suggesting, maybe proposing, or maybe fishing around for some thoughts or feedback, was the idea of this. I am very excited to attempt to ask the viewers of this channel to participate in a kind of poll. What I'd like to do is I'd like to open a viewers poll and ask viewers to submit to me their top 10 favorite Criterion Collection titles. The top 10 favorite Criterion Collection titles. And then the idea would be that viewers would leave their top 10 favorite titles in a comment in a video, as a video response, or to a comment to a video. And then that would be open to all viewers, let's say, until the end of whatever, October, November. So it would be open for a month or two or something. And it would just be people, and I would regularly remind people to visit the video and to submit their choices for their top 10 Criterion titles or something. And then at let's say the end of November, November 30th, 2019, the poll would close, and then I could then go to the comment section and count all the titles, and then see how many, how many votes each title got, and then I would take all the tallies and then compile a top 10 Criterion Collection list as voted by you, the viewers. And I could do that as a video in December, as a way, or as one way to sort of wrap up the year in terms of Criterion celebration. You know, December is usually a time when a lot of people like to do top 10 lists, best of the year, that sort of thing. Well, I thought it might be a nice festive thing perhaps to also provide a viewers' poll results, the viewers' top 10 favorite Criterion Collection titles. And so I don't know what you people out there think about that, but if you are interested in doing that, then I am game. I am very game, and I wrote some rules out, and so I thought that I could then put these in the description box. And so the rules I would have would be, for instance, so OOP titles, out-of-print titles, are okay. You can vote for those. Criterion Laserdisc titles are also okay. You can vote for those. Anything that is exclusively on the Criterion Channel streaming service is also okay. I really insist upon that because I think Criterion Channel is one of the avenues through which a lot of people are beginning to explore the Criterion Collection and all the films that the Criterion Collection has to offer. And I know of the differences between what's available on streaming and what's available in physical media, but I really think that the streaming service channel is a really fine source of cinema exploration. So I want to celebrate that as much as possible. So any films that are exclusive to that Criterion Channel are also okay. You can vote for a box set as a whole, or you can vote for an individual film within a particular box set. And I think that's fair because Criterion does make releases as box sets. And it might seem a little bit unfair at first glance because you're giving a set of films a collective boost, as it were, which might give strength to a set of films rather than relying on the strengths of the films individually. So I understand that viewpoint, but on the other hand, Criterion does release things in box sets. So I think it's, and sometimes it even has spine numbers for the box sets themselves. And so I thought it's only fair to allow people to vote for a box set if they want, also to allow people to vote for an individual release within a box set or an individual title within a box set if they want. So I leave both choices open. And for instance, if you want to vote for a film within an Eclipse series set, you can do so. Or if you want to vote for that set itself, you can also do so. It's your choice. So I was thinking about that. And so what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea? And if so, would you be interested in participating in that? And if I were to make this video, or if I were to make this announcement, would you be willing to help me out and participate by submitting to me your own top 10 favorites? I mean, you don't have to give 10, you can give up to 10. I think I just chose 10 because if people gave me like 20 or 30, then it would be a little bit difficult for me on my end to count because, I need a little bit of some kind of boundaries, if you will. So I would probably insist on a number up to 10. Anything beyond 10 I would just disregard because it would just be a little bit too difficult for me to handle. But I don't know. If you think that's a good idea, then I'm certainly game. And oh yes, and if I would definitely have to compile everything. So I could definitely I don't know how I would publish the complete list, but I could definitely make efforts to make it available. I think that would be really interesting. I don't know. I think I could put it on, maybe I could put it on the community tab of the YouTube channel, or maybe I could just put it in the description box. I don't know, but in any event, I can do so. I do want to say that I wouldn't necessarily, of course, you don't have to leave your personal information about this. You don't have to leave your name and your age and all that. Of course, I'm not concerned about that because I don't want to. I know sometimes some people can be very sensitive, and rightly so, about one's personal information like that. So of course that information would not be provided, and I would probably insist that all submissions be made publicly. In other words, they would be made in the form of a comment to a video, which would be public. And so that would therefore assume that any information that would be provided by a viewer would be information that the viewer would know would be public, and therefore that would be stuff that I could then rely upon. I wouldn't necessarily name a viewer and say, oh, this person voted for the, but that stuff would be available in the comment section for people to peruse and to read through in their own time. But I could definitely provide a list, a complete list as to the entirety of the votes and do that in some capacity. But if that is interesting to you, and if you would be oh yes, and also I would say that you can of course provide me the list in a rank form, like ranked from 1 to 10. But even if I were to receive a ranked list, I would still count each title as one vote. So for instance, if you gave me a top 10 list and your number 1 ranked title appears, I would still give that 1 vote, and I would give your 10th ranked title 1 vote. So that's just to make it easier for me to count, because otherwise it would just involve a little bit extra complication in terms of the calculation, and I probably would want to avoid that, just for in order to achieve as much accuracy as possible on my end. So if that is okay with you, then oh yes, and this is also very interesting too. You can go with the film, and you can also, like, in other words, what is your favorite Criterion Collection title or release or film? I want to leave it as open-ended as possible. So I want to leave it up to you, the viewer, to determine what that means. And so if you want to vote for a film based on the merits of the film itself, that's fine. If you want to vote for the film based on the package, the Criterion Collection release package, the special features, the whole deal, that's fine too. The presentation, that's fine too. I want, it's not necessarily tied to any one concept or another. I understand the difference, but this is a little bit of this is something that I actually thought about as well, and it's a little bit difficult for me to try to compile separate sets of data like that, because there might be certain permutations and complications that could arise if we were to think strictly about releases, and the reason being, let's take an example like Carnival of Souls. Carnival of Souls, the DVD, is different from Carnival of Souls, the Blu-ray, and so then I would, if someone voted for Carnival of Souls, the Blu-ray, that would be one thing. But if I got other people voting for Carnival of Souls, that's it, without indicating any DVD or Blu-ray, then what do? Do I count it as the DVD or the Blu-ray or both or neither? I'm not sure. So that would lead to a little bit of complication on my end, and I don't. It might create some delay. And so to avoid that, what I thought, I would like to leave the interpretation of favorite Criterion Collection release or film. I'd love to leave that interpretation as open-ended as possible and as broad as possible, so that you can decide for yourself what that means to you. And I think that ultimately is what this is about, is what this means to you, and what the Criterion Collection means to you in terms of your own favorites, because it's a subjective thing. So I think that should hopefully be it might be a little bit too open-ended. And again, this is my first time doing this, so I acknowledge from the outset that I could probably make a ton of mistakes. I will make a ton of mistakes along the way, but hopefully, if all goes well, it should be the start of something that can be a kind of a tradition or something in this channel. So if you're interested, great. Let's see. So let's just see if you are interested. So I'm just going to scroll down here. Okay. So I'm just seeing a lot of people, a lot of my friends. So thank you very much. It's nice to see you all. Wolfgratz says, I once sat next to Edwina Currie at a stage reading of Tate's King Lear. She was a right. Okay. Yes. Yes. But I did when I was young, and I was that was the first time I watched Doctor Who on television, and I remember this. The first episode of Doctor Who I saw. It took me a little while to get into Doctor Who, but I remember the first, or at least the episode that I remember seeing for the first time, or one of the earliest episodes I saw was the the first episode of the serial Dragonfire with Sylvester McCoy, and I remember that so distinctly because of the cliffhanger to episode 1 of Dragonfire. If you know the cliffhanger, it's literally a cliffhanger. So, anyway, my friends, I hope that is interesting to you. But it might not be. If it's not, I apologize. I have a tendency to say things that don't interest a lot of people. Okay, so Goldsberger says, yes, I'm. Greetings from Pennsylvania. I know a lot of you are busy, so thank you very much for stopping by, despite your busy schedule. So I apologize for not being able to schedule a time that's more agreeable to your schedule. But thank you very much for stopping by anyway, my friend. Let's see. Asian movie enthusiast says, "Are you watching any Japanese horror movies this month?" Let's see. Gosh, it's hard because I have to wait until my kids are asleep to watch any horror movies. So I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while, but Evil Dead Trap perhaps might be maybe Next at Bat. I'm not sure. But it might be interesting. But Joshua Brensting, our dear friend, hello. It's nice to see you. Rob, hello. Heirloom Providence, hello. And Paul Emery, hello, my friend. How are you? Cole Beer, hello. How are you? Okay, see a lot of my dear friends here. It's so nice to see you. Daig Films, is that right? Hello. Nostalgia Vortex, hello. It's been nice to be able to talk with you. Don't dream it, be it. The Cinematech, yes, would love for you to do a Hitchcock ranked video. It'd be quite an undertaking. However, I was thinking about doing a Hitchcock overview. I'm talking about the John Carpenter films. I've had the great pleasure of talking about Edward Yang's filmography. I think starting last year, I was focusing on Dario Argento. Alfred Hitchcock was one that I would love to do. And especially now with a lot of his films starting to become more readily available on Blu-ray. And so it would be so great to do so. Oh gosh, maybe one of these, maybe next year. That might be the big project for next year. Who knows? But Paul Emery says, so looking forward to Parasite and Jojo Rabbit. Oh gosh, this reminds me. Let's see, Parasite. Our dear friend, Touch of Film, Hus at a Touch of Film, has a great video. Where he reviews Parasite, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, which is such a great delight. You should definitely take a look at A Touch of Film's video on that. Really great stuff. Sorry, I'm just skipping around here. JR62, hello, it's nice to see you. Mark, Tuovinen, hello. Oh yes, not a problem. Yes, I'm very sorry about my scheduling. I always try to do the best I can, but I'm very sorry. I really appreciate you coming here, though. It's really nice to see you as always. Grant Garcia, hello. That's a good idea. So I'm assuming this is response to my Criterion Collection viewer poll. Great. Sina Arts is here. I hope you're well, my friend. Thank you very much for our conversation earlier today. Cinema-san, hello. Thomas Wilkie says, why not a top 20? 10 is too short a list. Oh, that's a good point. Would you mind if it's 10 for now? It's just, I think, I anticipate, kind of, well, It's. Do you think it's 10 is good or 20? I'm not sure. Well, let's keep it flexible. Let's. I mean, it really depends on the number of votes as well, because it could be such that you could have ties. That's a really good point. Maybe there are ties, and so it could go over. So okay, you know what? Let's do that. Let's do a poll of about like 20 or so. I'll do that, or maybe I'll leave it open. I won't set it. I won't set it aside. So let's do 20. Okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine. So I will open it up for everyone's top 20, and then we can go from there. And okay, I'm open to that. That's a good idea. Because I for one am so sympathetic to the difficulty of choosing only 10. So okay, we'll leave it up to 20. That's fine. And Thomas also said, will you publish the complete list? Yes, but also please understand that it will actually involve a considerable amount of work on my end. So I will do the best I can. But actually, you know what? Actually, I might have to take that back. Actually, I might have to insist on just receiving only 10 from people. Because it's again, it might just be a little bit too much work for me to deal with at first. So if you don't mind, Thomas, thank you very much for your suggestion. But let me just say that we will have 10. I will ask people for 10 and to pick 10, and then we can go from there. I'm really sorry about that, that setting that goal or setting that limitation, but I hope you can understand. It's just, I think it would be a little bit too much data for me to handle at first, but if I get maybe more used to it, then maybe I can try to expand it next time. I mean, this doesn't have to be the one and only time that this happens, of course. I mean, if this works out, hopefully this can be done next year or something like that. So, but let me insist on just receiving 10 from everyone at first, and then we can go from there. And also, I will do my best to make the complete list available. I don't have the greatest technical prowess, so if I'm not able to in the long run, please forgive me. But I will certainly do my best because I think that's very interesting to hear as well. So let's see. And Wolfgat says it would be hard to tally with differing numbers over 10. Let's see. All Things Film says, greetings, Daisuke. Does today find you well? It does, yes. It's the end of my week, so it's Friday night here, so I'm just enjoying my time. I have the weekend off starting tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Gosh, let's see. Wolfgat says, snap, Daisuke speaks faster than I can type. Oh, great. JR62, don't have too many criterions about equal amounts on Laserdisc and DVD Blu-ray discs, but I can do 10. Great. Rob says, hello Rob, sounds like a fun idea. Will also help us learn a little bit more about each other's tastes. It would be interesting to add where you're from. Yeah, that's a good idea. But I do understand the I do understand that some people are very sensitive about that, and I don't. The last thing I want to do is to step on any toes unnecessarily. So I don't want to insist upon any kind of extra information if people don't want to. If people want to provide it, that's fine. That's their choice. But all that information will be made public on the comments section. So I will, and I don't have any control over that. So. So I don't want to insist upon anything, but if you want to provide any more information, that's anything you want. So it's your call. Yes, and let's see. Oh yeah, and I don't think that's a good question. So Cole. BR and JR62 get at this point. I don't think there should be a requirement necessarily for owning the disc or owning the film or having the Laserdisc. I don't think you have to do that. You could see, and I mean, I would assume that if one votes for a film, then one would vote for a film because one has seen the film. I I can't imagine someone voting for a film and not having seen the film. I think anyone, if anyone does that, I'm not sure what the point of that is. But I guess my point is you don't have to necessarily own the Criterion disc. As I say, I would open it up to anyone who has Criterion channel streaming. You could have seen it and not necessarily seen the Criterion version. I mean, that's fine too. Again, I want to open up the interpretation of this question as broadly as possible. The film, or the release, or the Criterion treatment, whatever you think is apropos to your own views, because I understand also that not everyone looks at the Criterion collection in the exact same way. Not everyone, believe it or not, looks at the Criterion collection in terms of its supplements, its presentation. I know a lot of people do, but there are other people who don't, who just appreciate the Criterion collection for the fact that it has this availability of films, or it makes these films available. So right, I think it's therefore only fair to allow people to interpret the question any way they want and not impose any requirement of ownership or anything like that. I think we can leave it as open as possible. The more open, the better, I say. So, let's see. Hold on, I just jumped down. Let's see. Billis, is that right, Billis? Hello. I think this is the first time where you and I are talking. So if so, it's nice to meet you. My name is Daisuke. Hey Daisuke, I love how relaxing your videos are. Thank you very much. Just want to ask, are you still up to date with Masters of Cinema line? I am almost up to date. I'm pretty much up to date except for a few of the most recent releases, but I'm almost up to date. Mark, yes, hello. Thank you very much. Oh gosh, thank you very much for your very kind super chat. Australian $5. Thank you very much. Wow. And hi Daisuke, would love to know your thoughts on Bong Joon-ho's cinema, and have you seen his masterpiece Parasite yet? Take care and God bless. But thank you very much. I really want to see Parasite. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure. I think it's already available in theaters here in Japan, but oh gosh, that's the film. That film and The Irishman are the two films that I really want to see. Oh, that film, The Irishman, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are the three films that I really need to see as soon as possible. Let's see here. Okay. Kevin Ramirez, hello. Sahil SPST, hello. Pete 1972. Hi Daisuke, how are you doing? I'm sorry if I am being random, but are you looking forward to seeing the new Joker movie? And who is your favorite Joker? The new Joker movie. This is the movie, what's that one with Joaquin Phoenix, is that right? And Todd Phillips and Robert De Niro's in it as well. I guess I'm looking forward. I understand that there's quite a significant amount of attention surrounding this film from Venice, and now I know there was a certain bit of controversy surrounding the film prior to its release in North America, and now it's been released, and I think people are now beginning to see it. So I don't know if I haven't heard anything here in Japan about any release here. So I must admit I'm sort of watching from a distance the reactions and such. So I'm very interested. I must also admit that I don't know if I'd be able to see it, but it sounds like a very potentially very powerful film experience in many ways. I'm not quite sure what to expect, but excuse me, my throat is dry. Pardon me. While I take a sip of tea. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But as far as my favorite Joker, I haven't seen Suicide Squad. Right, there was a Joker in that one, right? Jared Leto was Joker there. I haven't seen that film, so I can't comment on his portrayal of the Joker. I've seen Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger and the Batman animated series. Mark Hamill does the voice for that, right? And also Cesar Romero. And I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me. I haven't thought about this very much, but I think it probably. I like Jack Nicholson in some ways, and I like Heath Ledger in a lot of ways. I love the bit in The Dark Knight where he's confronting the gangsters at the beginning there, and he says he's kind of antagonizing one of the gang. What's his name? Gamble, I think his name is. And he says, and Gamble loses his temper and patience. He says, "Enough with the clown." And he stands up to attack him, and then Joker pulls out a little thing with the grenades or something and the string, and he says, "Ah, ta 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 ta." I love that thing. He says, "Let's not blow this out of proportion," right? And I love that little ah ta 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 ta. I actually love that bit more than the pencil magic trick. Actually, I think the pencil magic trick is great, but actually that's a really great performance, right? That's a really great performance by Heath Ledger, right? Here we go. Yeah, he's very missed. Okay, so Grant Garcia, hello. So I'm getting a lot of questions. I must admit I'm not quite prepared, so I don't think I'd be able to answer all of these. Dake Films asks, "What's your thoughts on Lone Wolf and Cub Criterion release?" I think it's a fine release. I'm not sure. It's more of a this type of approach to that type of genre is a bit more. How should I put it? It's kind of in your face in a lot of ways. So I'm not sure if it's necessarily for everyone, but I certainly find it quite enthralling. So let's see. Dungeon Studio, hello. Isaac Dunn says, well, Daisuke, you are going to be watching Kwaidan. That's a Japanese horror film this Halloween. Actually, I've already seen it. I've seen it many times, and so I don't know if I'll be rewatching it for the live stream. I feel pretty prepared for it already, so I might be watching it. I might not, but I feel pretty prepared for it, and I've seen the Criterion release of that on a number of occasions. But yes, Exponic, hello. Hi, Daisuke. Are you planning on continuing the discussion on At One? Yes, I am. And I have everything done for the Noli Me Tangere. What is it? Third episode and fourth episode. Already done, but there is actually an issue because unfortunately I made these two videos that were about an hour or so each on those episodes, and unfortunately upon playback I realized that the sound is quite unusable, and so I have to go and remake those videos on Out One, Noli Me Tangere episode 3 and episode 4. So I was gonna upload them actually earlier in the week, but I found this technical mistake that I think I made upon recording, and so unfortunately I'm gonna have to record those from scratch. And I don't know, maybe this is my fault, I don't know, but I don't save my videos. I don't archive them. I suppose I should, but I really don't see, for me anyway, I don't have the capacity to archive them, and so I just have my, and I don't have a script or any kind of notes necessarily for those, so I just have to remember what I said about them. I think I can do it, but I'm at the point where I have to re-record them, and so therefore my Out One journey is a little bit delayed because of my poor technical or lack of expertise, technically speaking. And so I will be, yes, I will be doing those, but I haven't forgotten. Yes, so I'm at right, troisième episode. Thank you very much for asking, by the way, Explonic. That really makes me happy. I don't know if the Out One videos are my most viewed videos on YouTube. I think I've had videos that have had less views than the Out One videos, but I'm really proud of those Out One videos. I mean, so far anyway, I've only just scratched the surface, but I'm really proud of those because as you probably know, that universe, the Out One universe, the Jacques Rivette Out One Noli Me Tangere version, is quite it's quite an imposing and intimidating work, very intimidating, and so. But I was so surprised and delighted at the sort of response I've been getting so far from a number of people. Again, not a lot, because I don't think it's kind of a popular topic necessarily, and it doesn't have to be. But I guess my point is, it's a little bit obscure, perhaps, but still, for those people who have responded with respect to those videos, I've been so thrilled, and I always get I always feel happy whenever someone approaches me about Out One. So thank you very much. This has made my day. Yes. Okay, so people are saying, Cole is saying I couldn't handle 20 as regarding how many to choose, should I limit it to 10 or should I expand it to 20? Yeah, so Rob also says I like 10. Cinema Texas top 10 is far easier, Daisuke. Daisuke needs his sleep. LOL. Cole, thank you. Cole says 20 is too much to consider for myself. So yes, okay, so unless there are further comments down the road, and yeah, it looks like people are generally okay with 10. So yeah, Thomas, if that's okay, we'll just settle for 10 for now, and then if this works out, maybe, who knows, I'm more than game to consider expanding it if this is successful. So yes, so I guess what I should say is also, it's my hope that this would be, I'll make the video and then I'll upload it, maybe hopefully tomorrow or something, as soon as possible. And this is what I need to ask of you, my dear friends. This is my favor that I need to ask of you. I would love for this to go out to as many people as possible, anyone who is a fan of the Criterion Collection. And this is a very small YouTube channel, and so I don't necessarily I'm not necessarily the best in terms of my own marketing or anything, or advertising myself, but it would be so wonderful to be able to hear from as many people as possible within the space and also beyond the space. And so my favor to you is, once the video is up, if you are able to, please share this information, share the viewer poll with as many people as possible that are interested in the Criterion Collection. I've been very fortunate. For instance, I was surprised because it was someone brought it to my attention one day that some of my videos were posted on Reddit, the Reddit forums, the Criterion forums, subreddit threads about Criterion and Reddit, and I was very surprised about that. It was. And so I went to Reddit. I don't usually use Reddit, but I went there and I looked, and people provided some links, and so I looked, and there were some, lo and behold, there were some videos that were shared there that were videos that I posted on this YouTube channel. And so I was very thrilled, and I was so honored. No one needed to do that. No one was obligated to do that. But people took time out of their busy schedules to do that, and so I was very, very honored. I was on Letterboxd the other day too, and I don't use Letterboxd that often, much to my embarrassment, but I was on Letterboxd the other day, and I saw, someone showed me a list of maybe some people were making lists of films that were like live stream film club films or something like that, or something. It wasn't, it was like a short list or something, but the sentiment was so lovely in that someone took the time to create some lists or something that were connected to my YouTube channel, and so I was very honored and thrilled, and so very humbled and quite overjoyed, in fact. So thank you very much. And it just allowed me to, again, be able to meet more people and hopefully meet more people, and uh, just further find evidence just how lovely the film community really is. And so I guess bringing it back to this poll, what I would ask of you as a favor is, once the video is up, just please, if you are able to, and if you know places that you can share it, please share it with other Criterion fans who might be interested in participating in the poll. And that would mean so much to me. And it would actually make me very happy. I don't know how many people we'll be able to reach in total with this poll. How many people would participate? I don't know. Maybe is 100 too much over 2 months? It would be great to see 100 people participate, maybe 100 people leaving comments, and then I could count them up, and then we can go from there. So I can therefore say in the video, oh, this is the result of 100 comments that I've received from viewers, or something like that, or 100 viewers. So that would really make my day. And so if we are able to reach that number, that would be great. I'm not sure if it's possible because, again, it's not. I understand that not everyone in the film community uses and relies on YouTube, and so it might not be the most ideal platform for this sort of thing. I do understand it, but I enjoy myself, and I enjoy the YouTube platform, and so this is the place where I think I feel most comfortable, at least at the moment, anyway. And so let's see what we can do. But I will be doing my very best on my end, and counting and making sure my math is free from any error, and trying to make sure the list is as complete as possible. So I guess if it's possible, I would love to ask a favor of you, and just, if it's possible, just when the video is up, please vote in your own good time, of course, but also please share the information with anyone else that you think might be interested in participating in the poll. Once again, the more the merrier. The more the merrier. We want to welcome everyone and anyone that is interested in this. So if you know anyone, or if you know any groups or things like that, Criterion fan groups or things like that would be interested in this, please do so. And I will be opening this up to Laserdiscs and also streaming. So, and I think that's very fair. So you can vote for your 10 favorite Criterion titles that are all Laserdiscs. So. And that's fine as well. That would allow people to vote for things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, or Halloween, or Akira, or Citizen Kane, King Kong, things like that. So Boogie Nights. Again, that would be my favor to ask of you, and I will need your help with that. But if that's okay, then I'm so game with this, and I'm so looking forward to doing this, and it would be my pleasure to do this, because it's so worth it to hear your thoughts. I mean, I could go on. I could make videos all the time. Oh, there's my top 10 list of here, and there's only so much that I would be able to contribute, because I'm just one guy and one voice, and it's a very limited perspective that I have. And so I think it's much better to have a much broader perspective, at least this opportunity to see what other people have to say. And also the comments will all be there. So my idea is that the video will be uploaded and people could then just read through the comments at their own pace and leisure and just see what other people have to say. And I think that itself would be interesting. So interesting indeed to read. I would so love to make that possible. So okay, so let's do 10. Let's limit it to 10 for now, and we'll see what we can do. But that doesn't preclude, of course, the actual list being anything beyond 10. So maybe depending on the results, it might expand to top 10 or top 15 or top 16 or something, depending on if there are any tie votes, of course. So I'll be as open as I can as far as the finalized list that I will announce, but I hope that makes sense. So, all right, so let's see. Cole says, I like the challenge posed by a top 10 restriction. Okay, great, wonderful. Pete 1972 says, I've never seen a Bong Joon-ho film, believe it or not, but I did recently rewatch Beauty and the Beast by Cocteau. That's a very imaginative film. Yes, indeed, it is incredibly imaginative. Oh gosh, Wolfrat says, resist the temptation to design Daisuke a spreadsheet. Well, I'm all for receiving spreadsheet designs. Cinema-san says, sorry, I missed this. What is this top 10 about? Yes, I'm going to ask people what their top 10 Criterion releases or top Criterion films are. So, okay, so just great. Mr. Kid says, I just logged on. Can the top 10 include movies that are no longer with Criterion? Yes, OOP titles are fair game. I think that's only fair. Criterion Laserdiscs are a fair game. Non-spine number titles are fair game. Anything you want, as long as it is or at some point in time was a Criterion release. So, great. And great. Oh, that's a great idea too. David Evolution says, yes, top 10 reasons why people are obsessed with top 10 lists. Yeah, that would be interesting. What would be my number one reason for me being obsessed with top 10 lists? Oh gosh, I think it would be, I've thought about this actually, but on the one hand, I completely understand the how should I put it? It might seem to be in some respects anyway, kind of a futile exercise in the sense that it's so subjective and things can change so much, and depending on who participates, anything can change. The fluctuation and the possibilities for fluctuations are limitless. I completely get that. So in many respects, I understand the futility of top 10 lists or something like that. But on the other hand, in this day and age in society where we live, basically trying our best to connect with people, not necessarily succeeding every time, because, as you know, it's just kind of an existential problem, even in today's society. The point at which we are able to connect, or our inabilities to connect because of the inability to connect with the other, that sort of thing, or how are we really able to understand what goes on in the minds and hearts of someone else. We rely only on what we see and what we hear and what we are told by that other person. And so I think in that sense, because of the difficulty, at least I feel on many occasions in trying to connect with people or trying to convey and express what it is that I feel, it's sometimes a lot easier in today's parlance to express what it is I feel, or vice versa, to try to appreciate what it is that what I perceive someone else is trying to convey to me, through this thing we call a top 10 list, because it's somehow quantifying something that is otherwise unquantifiable, and it provides it in a nice, easy to digest package. So In that sense, I find it to be potentially a very valuable exercise. But on the other hand, I do appreciate the fact that it is a futile, or it has a potential for being a futile exercise, at least from a certain point of view. So, yes, let's see. Okay, so Kai, Beric, hello, hello. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Let's see. Zyrother, hello, my friend. I hope you're well. Trey, hello. It's nice to see you. Mr. Kid, hello. Yes, I think I said hello to you earlier, but hello again. So, let's see. All right. Yes, yes. Andre, hello. Yes, Andre says Parasite is Bong Joon-ho's masterpiece. Oh, it's so good. Highly recommend. I cannot wait to see it. Yes. Now there's a discussion of Joker. Ghostburger is back. And Bill says, thank you for answering my question. And yes, you pronounced my name right. Jack, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. I'm so sorry. Jack Buenfeld. If I pronounce it incorrectly, please correct me. I'm so sorry. Sean Anthony, hello. Oh, my dear friend, hello. How are you doing? I hope you are well as well, my friend. It's so nice to see you. Right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. So, Silver Screen 62, hello. I hope you're doing fine. I am, thank you. It's now Friday evening here, and just enjoying my time. It's great, but it's made even better because I'm able to talk to my friends, you and everyone else here. So thank you very much for making my day, that much better. So, let's see. Oh gosh. Alex Jigoku says, Daisuke, you look like the guy from Tetsuo the Iron Man. Oh, that's great. Thank you. I take that as a compliment. Let's see. David Devolution says, Daisuke, what are your favorite films starring the great Peter O'Toole? I don't know if I've thought about this much, but I really like The Ruling Class. Let's see. I also liked him in Supergirl. Mr. Kidd says, I asked this yesterday, but what is your take on Martin Ritt as a director, wondering specifically how it could be released by Criterion? I think it would be great, but, I mean, could it be released by Criterion? I mean, I think that's a multi-layered question. I mean, would it be a quote-unquote worthy release? Whatever that word means. I think it would be very worthy. I think it would be a great addition. I think it would have a wonderful audience, and people would respond to that kind of release so positively. Whether it is possible for that to be released due to intellectual property rights issues, licensing issues, or not, I mean, that's a completely different question. But of course, I think that would be a great film to have as a kind of films that I would like to see in the Criterion Collection kind of thing. Sam Davies. Oh, hello, Sam. Greetings, Daisuke. I feel your pain in having to re-record technical issues. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Out One. I'm slowly working my way through the hour release with you. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm a great admirer of Out One. I think it's a Noli Me Tangere is great, the longer version, and also the quote-unquote shorter version, the Spectrum, is so fascinating. They are two, I think, completely different entities, although the subject matter is in essence the same. It's interesting to try to compare the two. So after I'm done with Noli Me Tangere, I'm going to go straight into Spectrum. But I have a tendency to work rather slowly with these sorts of things anyway. I should point out also that our dear friend Nazarin Prod has his own channel, Nazarin Prod, and he is going through Out One as well. And so I'm so thrilled to see that. And I think he just put up his video on episodes 3 and 4. So if you're interested in yet another take on Out One, please check out Nazarin Prod. So, very good stuff. Let's see, just going through here. Sorry, I'm just skipping through. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. People are asking if I'm on Letter. I am on Letterboxd, and as far as I'm, there is the I haven't used the account, but it's not dormant. It's active. So I think actually I think there might be more than one Daisuke Beppu in the world. In fact, I think I don't even know. I mean, I should know. It's my own account, but I don't know because I think I'm Daisuke Beppu. No, no. Is it? Is it? It's either Letterboxd or Instagram. I forget. I'm Daisuke Beppu 4. So I think someone had the name before or registered the name before I even started. So I'm not sure if maybe I'm Daisuke Beppu on Letterboxd. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I don't remember because I'm really poor at remembering details like that. So. But it's not inactive. It's an active account. I was on there just the other day, in fact. So let's see. Again, I'm apologize for skipping around, but oh yes. Trevor Smith says, when is Criterion having their next sale? It would, yes, it could be later this month, so it's now October. So keep an eye out for that. Any clues or any not clues, any hints or any thing that you hear. If I hear anything, I will make an announcement here as soon as possible. So at the moment, I haven't heard anything concrete, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened later this month. Yes, again, I apologize for just skipping around here, but let's see. Carl's Renton review says, got to go later. Got to see you, my friend. I hope you're well. Let's see. And again, I'm really very sorry. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Sorry about this. Yeah, more than one. I've just suddenly jumped to the end here, so I'm just trying to go back as much as possible. If I've skipped over your comment, I really apologize. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm really bad with this. I never get. I'm at the end of the conversation now. There's talk about F. Murray Abraham and Amadeus. I like Amadeus very much. Actually, I admit I like the original theatrical cut of Amadeus more than the director's cut, to be perfectly honest. I like the director's cut very much, but there are some editing choices in the director's cut that have replaced certain editing choices in the theatrical cut, which I really liked, but they were missing in the director's cut, and so I actually have a preference for the theatrical cut of that. And I know the theatrical cut omits a certain subplot involving Salieri and Mozart's wife, and I know there are some other things that are deleted in the theatrical cut versus the director's, but I actually prefer the compactness of the theatrical cut. Although the director's cut does have a lot of great insights as well. I love that performance by F. Murray Abraham, though. By the way, I think it's one of the greats, and you know, I don't want to say too much in terms of details about the plot and the ending, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But to be as vague as possible, I find his performance. It on the one hand, it feels like it goes in a certain direction in terms of the kinds of realizations that the character makes, at least it seems to make, on the one hand. But then by the time the film is finished and one is sitting there thinking about the film that has just transpired, I actually question whether indeed Salieri is regretful or not. Because there's something about, there's a little twinkle in his eyes that lingers even after he is showing signs of maybe remorse or regret or guilt. I'm not sure, but I don't want to go into too much detail, but I do find that film to be very fascinating, and that performance is actually quite and I mean this in the most complimentary way. It's a performance that I look at so much to try to find as many clues as possible, and I even now can't form a conclusion one way or another about where the character of Salieri is by the time the film has ended. So, and I think that's great. So, yeah. So there we go. Dr. Andrew Cruz, neurosurgeon. Hello, hello. I think this is probably the first time you and I have met. So if so, it's great to see you. Thank you very much. So yes, and I'm sorry, maybe Goran, hello. Manos Emantul, hello. Nice to see you. Let's see, Alex Jigoku is still here. Yes, Alex Jigoku, you were asking, do you use Letterboxd? I do. Used is probably not the best verb. I have a Letterboxd account that has been not inactive. I haven't logged on anything for the longest time, so, and I apologize for that. So I'm sorry about that. So many questions here. Just I'm kind of so overwhelmed here. David Suchet played Salieri in stage performance at Amadeus recently, didn't he? Let's see. So David Evolution says, asking about certain... yes, so This Sporting Life is actually, it's a Criterion DVD. And it actually was also a Criterion Laserdisc. So yes, and it's not OOP. It's still, as far as I can tell, This Sporting Life is still available on a DVD. It's a really good film. It's an excellent film, by the way. Richard Harris is he's like that performance by Richard Harris in The Sporting Life is one of those, like, I don't know, he's like just like like he's got the, I don't want to say rage, but he's got the ferocity of a wild animal, and he's trying to be this tender, loving man, and that wonderful difficult concoction of those seemingly opposite strands of characterization, I think, forms such a volatile and powerful emotional range. It's really a great performance, really great. Yes, so, oh gosh, and let's see, so, oh gosh, there's a great conversations here going forward. So, okay, so what I will do, therefore, is I will put up the video about opening up the poll, asking viewers like yourselves to vote for your favorite Criterion Collection film title release, however you want to interpret it. And I'll put that up hopefully later today, or maybe today. It's actually getting a little bit late, so it's maybe tomorrow if I have time. That's the thing, there's just so many things that I want to do in so little time, and so it's just that's the way things are. So I just have to work with things the best that we can. And so let me start winding this down, if you don't mind. So I am getting a little bit sleepy because it's now nearing midnight here, and so I might want to start to get ready for bed soon. So I'll leave the chat open for another 10 or 15 minutes, shall we say, if you don't mind, and then we'll call it an evening. And this doesn't have to be the end of the conversations. Of course, you please feel free to keep on talking with each other and amongst each other. It's great. You're making great conversations, much more than I could possibly ever hope to even begin to contribute anything substantive to. So let's see. Oh yes, the what I wanted to say also, just going forward, is thank you, Manos, for reminding me. Was the horror genre, because now it's October, and I was thinking about, what should I do, something special for Halloween or not? I kind of asked this question in an earlier live stream. Should I focus on like Criterion horror films or something? I did a video once talking about a small selection of horror films in the Criterion collection, but it was far from being a complete overview of every single horror film in the Criterion collection. But I do, on the one hand, I do love the horror genre. I come at the horror genre from a certain perspective, though. It's not. I don't have a wide, or not wide. I don't have a super overarching appreciation or knowledge of the entirety of world cinema's horror genre. So I don't have a lot of expertise in horror films that are outside of my comfort zone when it comes to horror films. So I don't know if I would be able to add anything to the conversations that are already existing out there on YouTube and things like that. But I was I was born in 1979, so I was a child of the 80s, and at the time, and because of my parents' work situation and such, I lived in the United States for a while when I was a child. I lived in the United Kingdom for a while when I was a child, and so it was during those times when I was exposed to a number of horror films. And so the films, for instance, Halloween and Halloween 2, Halloween 3, those films in particular, I can't think of a time where I didn't see those films, I didn't know those films. Friday the 13th series, especially the first 5. Everything after 6, I'm a little bit less familiar with, but the first 5, I'm actually, I've seen so many times. And same goes for Nightmare on Elm Street. I was, of those the big slasher film, horror icons of the 80s, or late 70s and 80s. Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. For me, it was always Freddy Krueger. I was always a big fan of, not a big fan, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and it was, I remember the kind of thrill I got watching the trailer to Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And this was after I'd seen Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, over and over again on VHS tape, and I thought that was a really, I loved that film, and it was, I had, it was so inventive and scary, and it was sad, and it had a nice pace to it, and it had great linkages to the first film, of course. And Heather Langenkamp I thought was great, and Patricia Arquette I thought was so great, and I had a huge crush on her watching that film, and I thought her character was just so, it was kind of a scary film, and even now I watch that film with great love and affection. And once in a while I'll listen to Dream Warriors, the song, on my headphones when I'm on my way to work. It gives me a little bit of extra energy in my walk. So yeah, so I love those, and I did talk about this in one video. I was also a big fan of Hellraiser, Hellraiser, and in particular Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Hellraiser 3, I'm kind of still on the fence. Sometimes, some days I like the film, some days I'm not such a big fan of the film. But Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 for me are really just supreme examples of that kind of late 80s horror. And Hellraiser 2 was really nice. You know, I have. I think I owe a lot to Hellbound Hellraiser 2 in many ways, but you know, I remember I was so taken with that film. You know, I had it on a VHS tape, and I remember the time the VHS tape that I had of Hellbound Hellraiser 2 was the R-rated version, so it wasn't the uncut version. So it was the R-rated version, so it didn't have the opening with the scene from Hellraiser with Frank, the close-up on his face at a very key moment in Hellraiser. It was actually the close-up well, actually, I shouldn't say Pinhead. I should call him the lead Cenobite, and it was he was reenacting the famous scene where he first confronts Kirsty in the first Hellraiser, and he says that famous line, you know, "We'll tear your soul apart," and that starts the intro section, the pre-credit sequence to Hellraiser 2. It wasn't the bloodier version with Frank and what happens to his character. And there are other aspects of the film, Hellraiser 2, the R-rated version, that are, of course, different from the uncut version, which is superior in my opinion. But even with that cut version, I had, oh no, wait a minute, I take that back. It wasn't a VHS tape that I had, it was a recording that I made of the film off of TV, and I recorded it on a VHS tape. That's what it was. So, therefore, it was a US TV broadcast version of Hellbound Hellraiser 2. So many of the effects were cut out, or they were edited. There were some glimpses of nudity in the film, but those were blurred out, I think. And so it was a tamed down version of the film, but it still was better than not having it at all. And so I remember watching it over and over again, and I was so taken with a lot of the dialogue, because I thought that a lot of the dialogue that was given, in particular by the lead Cenobite, who is known, I think, affectionately now as Pinhead, but at least among the fans, right? But I thought a lot of his dialogue was really quite. It was so lovely to hear, and it was delivered with such gravitas and weight and elegance, that it was so lovely to hear, so much so that at the time, you know, you couldn't make direct recordings. You know, we didn't have iPhones like that. So I actually had a little tape recorder, and I would record on little cassette tapes those bits of dialogue and the music, the Christopher Young music that I really loved of Hellraiser 2. And I would record, not everything, but just bits. And then it would be my little mixtape of moments, audio moments from Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And then I had a little Walkman, right? Because at the time you had Walkmans and you could play cassette tapes. And once I made my cassette tape, I would then listen to that recording over and over again. And it was really a lot of fun to listen to. I remember listening to it as I was going to sleep, and because I was so taken with the dialogue and the Cenobite's dialogue, and Dr. Chenard and his, you know, that's another thing too. Dr. Chenard, he has a really interesting, very interesting character arc in the film Hellraiser 2, and the Dr. Chenard character has a line, and I think this was around the time this is when I was in high school, and so I wasn't in college yet, but I think I was preparing for, you know, I was in the United States at the time, and it was my intention to enroll or to apply to United States schools in the U.S., and so I had to take SATs and all that, so to test one's English vocabulary. You had to take these standardized tests, and so I was preparing for those, as you know, many other kids my age at the time. But all the while, I was still a fan of Hellraiser, And so it was around this time that I had made this mixtape of audio snippets from the film Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And in that mixtape, I remember I recorded that conversation of the scene, the conversation between Chenard and Tiffany towards the end there. And Dr. Chenard says, oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna mess up the line, but he says, "Surgery is open, Tiffany. What was today's agenda? Ah, yes, evisceration." And he just ha 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 ha, and just does that, evil maniacal laugh. And then the elevator comes up, and we see Julia appear. So, and your video somewhere that I posted, I think last year. But this was a very important moment for me, and I didn't. Very significant, I think. In this, it could be said that is because at the time I didn't know the meaning of the word evisceration. He says this word evisceration, and I admit, when I first heard that as a young teenager, I said, "What does that mean, evisceration? I'm not sure what that means." My vocabulary wasn't that good, so I was compelled, and I was inspired to look up the word evisceration. So what does this mean? So I went to a dictionary and I looked up the word evisceration. His pronunciation of the word evisceration it was such that it was kind of hard for me at first to envision in my mind exactly how it's spelled, but then I realized the spelling and stuff. So I looked up the word evisceration. I said, "Oh, that's what it means. Okay, evisceration." So that makes sense in the context of that scene. Okay, so there's that. And I'm sitting there taking the SATs. I'm taking my standard. Believe it or not, one of the questions was like an English language question. And it was a question that was designed to test one's vocabulary components to determine whether or not one can get a high score on the SATs. At least that's how it was at the time. I don't know how it is now, but wouldn't you believe it that one of the questions on the SAT involved the word evisceration or some form of it, eviscerate, or the verb form to eviscerate, or evisceration, the noun form, or something like that. And so I was very fortunate because it was placed in such a way in the question that had I not known the meaning of the word, I wouldn't have been able to answer the question with any confidence. And so I mean, I don't know what the final answers were. I never got the answer key for that particular SAT test, so I don't know if I eventually got that question right or not. But I can probably say with a great degree of confidence that I got the question right, and I can thank for that, because Hellraiser 2 inspired me to look up the word evisceration just in time for the SAT. And so I'd like to think that it's thanks to Hellbound Hellraiser 2 that I was able to become enrolled in college. So thank you, Hellbound Hellraiser 2, for helping me out along the way. And I think, because I was able to get into a certain college, I was able to go to here and here and here, and here I am right now. So I can probably say, with maybe some degree of possibility at least, that had it not been for my love of Hellbound Hellraiser 2 at that age, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. So thank you very much, Hellbound Hellraiser 2, for teaching me this important phrase. So that's a little story that hopefully will indicate just how much I'm in love with this kind of cinema. And I mentioned earlier in an earlier live stream about my love of George Romero films, and so I won't go into too much detail about that now. But these are the films that I really grew to love. And not only did I love the scares and the thrills and the horror aspects of them, but I also came to love them for showing me special effects and the notion that these can be films that can be created, and the like. There's of course one of the great examples of this, and it's a film that was The Thing. and the work that was spearheaded on that, Rob Bottin. And so that is like, the Mount Everest, in many respects, the Mount Everest. To have been able to watch that as error and everything and everything like that, it was a real eye-opener in many ways. But in one particular way, I think it showed me the idea that you can make a film, and the film was like the product of craftsmanship and skill and art and love and passion for the precision of the craft of cinema. So I have the horror genre to thank for that, very much so. Every once in a while I will get some comments or some messages asking me or questioning why I like horror films or something like that. How can I like horror films if I have kids or something like, because I have 2 young children. I never really understood, to be perfectly honest, I never quite understood the reasoning behind such questions, but I try to answer it to the best of my ability. But I have a lot of films in this particular room, but I always make it a point to keep all the scary films out of sight, because I don't want anything to be left lying around. I don't want a 3-year-old coming in here and looking at a cover art for a scary film necessarily. So I always try to keep everything out of sight. And also, I never watch any horror films unless until and after my kids are asleep, because I don't even want to have there be any possibility of someone like watching a film over my shoulder and it being like a really bloody, disgusting moment or something like that. I mean, I might sound a little bit hypocritical with that, because I did see many of these films when I was a very young boy. So like, on the one hand, why I saw them at a very young age, so why shouldn't it not be okay for my young children to see them as well? But I guess now I'm a parent, and I kind of I look back on my own childhood, and I think I'm probably too young to see many of these films. I saw Halloween 2 much too young. Jaws 3, I know it's not really strictly what one thinks of a horror film immediately, but that film scares me to this day. It's not a perfect film, but it's quite a scary film, and I think it scares me to this day because it really traumatized me when I was a child. There's a particular scene in that, again, I don't want to go into too much detail now, but there's a particular scene in that I saw as a kid. I saw it way too young. I think it was PG as well, so go figure. But that's a really bloody film. That is such a bloody film. It's really quite intense. There's one scene near the end involving a character called Philip Fitzroyce, and what happens to him is one of the, like, just thinking about it now, is one of the most horrifying things that I think I ever saw as a kid. And even now, I don't revisit that film that often, but when I do, and that scene comes up, I really, I don't physically start to shake, but inside, in my heart, I'm really becoming very nervous, because I'm reminded of just how traumatic this scene was to me as a child. And so watching the scene now, even as an adult, really scares the living daylights out of me. And so I don't, I should visit that. Well, I don't know if I should, but Louis Gossett Jr. Is in that film, and he's great. He's great. I really like his character. Yeah, so this was, yeah, so what was I saying? So I watched a lot of these very intense films. I saw Halloween 3 at a much too young, you know some of those scenes in Halloween 3. I saw that, and it was very traumatizing. It's not a horror film per se, but Superman 3, there's a particular scene in there that really scared me, so much so to this day I look at that scene and it just scares me to no end. It involves the character played by Annie Ross, and so that film scares me. It's not, of course, a horror film per se, but it was around that time, and so that really scares me. And so whenever I love Annie Ross, and I have some Annie Ross records, but deep down, a little part of me, whenever I even hear an Annie Ross record or hear Annie Ross song, a little part of me deep down in the the depths of my heart, a little part shudders a little bit because I am reminded of the scene of her character in Superman 3. It affected me that much. So I did talk about that in an earlier video somewhere. I forget where, but what am I saying? So I do have a love of horror films, but admittedly it's a kind of a limited, maybe an American-centric view of 80s horror film, perhaps. When I was older, I expanded my tastes to the extent I was able to, based on access. I was a little bit older, and I was able to discover Dario Argento, and from there I was able to discover the beauty of Italian horror to the extent I was able to find them on VHS rental. Zombie, Lucio Fulci's Zombie was one of those VHS rental tapes that you have that iconic. It's probably one of the greatest VHS covers in the world ever. It's that iconic zombie face, and with the tagline, "We are going to eat you." And I remember that box. Looking at that box, it was at the top shelf of this video store. It was a very small video store that it was a rental store that my family would frequent. That was near our house at the time when I was that age, very young. I remember entering the store. It's a very small store. It was called the Roxy, and the Roxy had, when you entered, it had a little thing at the top of this shelf here near the door, and it had a picture of Eraserhead, the cover of Eraserhead here. And it had a little section for beta tapes, right? That was a time when there were even beta tapes around. And then you go to the front desk, or the register, and next to the register there would be the horror titles. And it had the shelf there, horror titles. I would just love looking at the horror titles. And I would always feel a little bit guilty because I was very young, and I knew that depending on who was at the register, I would be able to have my mom rent or not rent any horror films. Because some people at the registers were really strict about letting little kids have their parents rent horror films for them, whereas other people at the register were pretty lax about that. So it depended on who was at the register at that time of day. If I was lucky, I would be able to do so. If I was not lucky, then I would always have to be very careful. I couldn't stand in front of the horror section all day long, but I'd have to sort of look and then pretend I was looking elsewhere, but I would always be focusing on that. And I remember at the top shelf almost all the time would be that cover, that the VHS box for Zombie, "We Are Going to Eat You. And also next to that was the cover for or the box for the film Extra. And I remember that too. Those two films were, just because of the VHS box cover art and the age I was when I first saw that I was kind of I never saw those films until a little bit later in my life, and so I didn't see Extra until I was older. I didn't see Zombie until I was older. And I think a part of it had to do with the fact that I think the way in which the cover, those VHS box sets looked to me at the time, really affected me. They seemed to be such, like, I don't know, forbidden films to me when I was that young, I suppose. I could watch Halloween 2 for some reason. I remember I saw Silent Night, Deadly Night when it was first released. So I must have been, 5 or 6 or something. I can't imagine watching Silent Night, Deadly Night at 6 years old. I can't imagine that. But I saw that for whatever reason. I remember the box cover art looked innocent enough, but watch the film. It's really quite an unpleasant film in terms of watching it. I remember it scared me so much, and I was just, I saw it in a little TV room with the couch, and you have this thing when people talk about Doctor Who, they say, people hid behind the couch. I really hid behind my couch when I saw Silent Night, Deadly Night for the first time when I was, however old I was, 6 or 7 or something. But it was quite that was a scary film to me, and so even now, I don't quite take to Silent Night, Deadly Night because it really scared me a lot when I was a little kid. And yeah, there's that. So and I would never show my children Silent Night, Deadly Night. Not because of necessarily the film itself, mind you, but just because of that genre of film. I wouldn't show my children now. Although, again, that might seem a little bit hypocritical based on my own personal experiences. But I don't mean to be hypocritical. But if I sound that way, I apologize. Yeah. So, oh, great. So, yes. So this is just to say I haven't made any decisions yet about any kind of Halloween themed thing that I might do for this channel. I probably won't end up doing anything just because of time restraints more than anything else. I'm rather my time is pretty occupied at the moment with respect to John Carpenter, and so that is occupying a lot of my time. I'm very happy for that, of course, but I think if I were to then focus on yet another thing, I would probably be stretching myself way too thin. And so, there's a lot of other places to go on YouTube for a Halloween themed film discussion. It's great. So let's see. All right, my friends. So I'm just going to return to the live chat here very quickly, and then just call it a day. Let's see. So okay. Right. So sorry if I've skipped over your comment, or I haven't called you out by name. I apologize. Oh, that phrase, "called you out by name," that's a very that always reminds me of Frank in Henry Fonda's character in Once Upon a Time in the West, right, when he says, "Now that you've called me by name." That's that was a very interesting phrase, I thought. But I'm sorry. Just let me just return to this chat before it's time for me to go. So if I've skipped you, I didn't mean to. I apologize if I've skipped you, but it's just my inability to follow the chat fully enough. So I apologize if I've skipped you, but I will do my best to cover everyone as possible. Let's see. Tomas, hello, my friend. How have you been? Oh, hello. Thank you for asking. It's nice to see you. I hope you're well. I'm doing well. It's now just a casual Friday night. I finished my work week, and so tomorrow is Saturday, and the day after is Sunday. So I have the weekend off. So I will probably be spending some time with my kids. My kids are very much into swimming lately, and so I might take them to an indoor pool that is near our house. Let's see. Okay, so there's talk about these latest rumors that have been flying about regarding season 4 of a certain series. So this is very interesting. Yes. So what I think about the possibility of season 4 of Twin Peaks, or a follow-up to what's known as The Return. Is it happening again? Is it happening again? It would be great. It would be so great. I think whether I believe it or not, one has to take these things with a grain of salt, of course. And even I remember back in the day. Do you remember back in the day when they were really underway with the Return? David Lynch and Mark Frost. And then there was that bit where David Lynch announced that he wouldn't be doing it or something, and he had butted heads with whoever the powers that be at Showtime or whatever, and so they couldn't reach an agreement. So there was a point there where he couldn't reach an agreement, but then later David Lynch was able to reach an agreement, and everything was fine and dandy. So, and then we were able to be blessed with being able to see the masterwork that is The Return from Mark Frost and David Lynch. And so even these rumors, even if they were well founded, it's always possible that deals could break through at the last minute and break down at the last minute. And so we can't really rely on anything unless things are concrete and set in stone. I get that. But I haven't heard anything beyond what everyone else has heard. And there are many other Twin Peaks and David Lynch resources out there, and fan sites and YouTube channels that are much more expert at this than I. But listening to that sort of that environment, the chatter in the environment there, it does feel like, it does feel like these seem to be rumors with substance, let me put it that way. And so I'm listening to these things with a great deal of positive anticipation. So, and if it happens, I think that's great, because of course, as we know, without giving away too much details, I think there are many places after the end of The Return, after the end of that, I think those of us who've seen the work can agree that I think there are many places that it could go after the end. And so it could end right there. I think it would be a really very interesting way to end that whole work and that world. But I think there are other places to go beyond that. And the sky is the limit in terms of certain characters and what happens to certain characters. I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I don't want to spoil anything, lest anyone here who hasn't seen it yet. So, but yes, I'm cautiously optimistic that something will happen soon. But as with the I don't know how. What would be planned? Would it be the same length of a season that was the earlier season? What was it, 18 parts, was it? And so would it be that long, or would it be... but actually, it wasn't like it was shot as an episodic thing. It was like a huge film that was just presented in his episodic film. And in many ways, it was like Out-One. Jacques Rivette's Out-One in many respects. And so it might be like making another great grand film from Mark Frost and David Lynch, and just rearranging the pieces in order to create this feeling of an episodic nature of a season, perhaps. Or it could be a one long, sprawling film thing that he would make. But whatever it may be, I would be open to it. Even if it were like a film the way that Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me followed the end of season 2. I think I would be very much open to something like that as well. And that would be really fascinating and fantastic. So whatever, I think I'm open to anything. So with that in mind, it would be lovely to see something. Will it happen? Do I believe it would happen? I remain cautiously optimistic, but I'm not as I'm not necessarily prone to shooting down these rumors immediately, because it does seem like there is a bit more substance to these rumors than what otherwise may seem. So let me put it that way. Great. Colbert says, incredible regarding recording and carrying moments of dialogue. The gravitas, as you say, echoes beyond the form. Yes. So I think you're referring to the story I told about how I'd record on my cassette tapes when I was very young bits of dialogue and music from Hellraiser 2. Did I do that with other films? I might. Oh, gosh, it's been so long. I don't remember. I did that with the first Hellraiser 2, actually, but I think I was so much at that time in my life, wherever, however old I was, I was just so into the world of Hellraiser 2 at that moment, and so I was listening to that so many times. And I don't know if I did that with other. You know what I did? I did that with. I remember I did that with, or I attempted to do that with Bride of Reanimator. Do you remember that film, Bride of Reanimator? I attempted to do that with Bride of Reanimator, but I had to abandon it during the recording. So I had to put up my tape recorder to the speaker of the television and record whatever it is I wanted to record of Bride of Reanimator. And at the time, I think it was the theme song of the opening credits of Bride of Reanimator. And as you know, there's a little bit of an interesting history with respect to the theme song that's used first in Reanimator, and then how it's changed in Bride of Reanimator in order to make it less like the Bernard Herrmann theme to Psycho. Well, in any event, I was recording the moment of the film that was the opening titles and the theme song of Bride of Reanimator. And I remember this. I had a dog at the time. It was a cane terrier. Her name was Maggie. And we had two dogs because my mother was a dog lover. We had a cane terrier named Maggie, and we had a little toy poodle named Bobo. So Maggie and Bobo. Oh gosh, I miss them. I haven't thought about the Maggie and Bobo in so long. Oh gosh, I missed them. I'm sorry. And so what was I saying? So yes, so I remember, and this was again when I was maybe I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, maybe a little bit younger, I forget. But I had to use the tape recorder and put the tape recorder to the speaker of the TV, and then press the record. You had to press the play and the red record button at the same time to record on a cassette tape. So that's what I did. And I remember so you had to be silent. You couldn't have any noise because of course, you were just picking up not just noise from the speaker, but you had the potential for picking up any other noise that could occur in that room. Well, I was recording it, and then my dog, the cane terrier Maggie, was there. And what happened was, I don't know, maybe there was a squirrel or something that Maggie saw outside. But during the moment when there was a lull in the music of Bride of Reanimator, and it does the theme, and then it goes into like a slow bit in the middle. It's like a slow romantic bit in the middle. Well, it was at that moment where my dog started to bark so much, and she wouldn't stop because I think she wanted to go outside and chase a squirrel. And so, unfortunately, I had to abandon that because I didn't have time to go to the beginning and try to record again, and so the dog was there. So actually I didn't abandon it. What happened was I had the tape and I used the tape, but it was the recording with the dog barking. So and then from there I tried to record more dialogue, but I kind of abandoned it halfway through because I knew that the dog barking would kind of spoil the experience. So I had a cassette tape that was half of my audio recording project regarding Bride of Reanimator, but it was stopped halfway because I thought at the time that the fact that the dog barking was captured on the recording spoiled it for me. Well, I think back on it now, and I think I wish I had kept that tape, and so I could listen to that and listen with great love and affection the way my dog Maggie barked as I was watching Bride of Reanimator. I wish I'd kept that tape because I miss Maggie. So anyway, so I did attempt it with other films. I didn't do it with any. Oh gosh, did I do it with any others? I forget. It's been too long now. But oh well. And Dungeon Studio says, what about this huge Twin Peaks box that's supposed to be released soon? Got my pre-order for it already. You're not the only one, my friend. So, yes, you're not the only one. So I took care of that as soon as I heard the news. And let's see. Oh, Mr. Kidd makes a very interesting question here. How many other sequels have the subtitle first, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, rather than Hellraiser 2, Hellbound? That's a good question. I've never really thought about that in terms of a survey of sequels. But incidentally, Mr. Kidd, I love your name. What would be a good way to express how? Let's see. If God had wanted man to fly, he would have given him wings, Mr. Kidd. So yes, I love Diamonds Are Forever. I think that's a film that I've gone so back and forth on ever since I was little. And sometimes some parts during my life I really didn't like that film at all, and now I just look at it. It's so unabashed in terms of its depictions of certain concepts and sort of social norms at the time. Of course, I completely get that, but there is something that's captured there that's really great. And Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd are two of the best Bond villains, henchman level Bond villains that I think in my opinion anyway. There's a bit I love so much when Bond is in that elevator, with those metal panels, that beautiful layout of the metal panels, and the gas comes and he's passed out, and the elevator goes down, and then the doors open, and you've got that great John Barry score, and when the doors open, you've got the dark, ominous theme. Dun, dun, dun. And then you see Bond passed out on the floor of the elevator, and then who comes in the frame but two pairs of legs in suits, and it goes and it cuts to the faces of the two men who are standing there, and they are of course none other than Wint and Kidd. And so that's great. And then what does he say? He says, if at first you don't succeed, right, try again. Right, so that's great. What is it? Yeah, if at first you don't succeed, Mr. Kidd, try again, Mr. Wint. So, oh gosh, I love Diamonds Are Forever, and Wint and Kidd I think are really, really great. And I love that thing. I love that look, Putter Smith's face when Bond is onto them, and he says, I'll be the judge of that. Or is it, I'll be the judge of that. That's rather potent. Not the cork, your aftershave, strong enough to bury anything, right? And I love the look, right? Especially on Putter Smith when he realized, he may be onto us. And so, oh gosh. What is it? Mouton Rothschild is a claret. And, what does he say? I forget the line exactly. And I've smelt that before, and both times I smelt the lat, or something like that. So that's, oh gosh, I love Diamonds Are Forever. So great username, Mr. Kidd. I love it. Okay, let's see. So I'm just gotta start winding down here, my friends. I said, let's see. Oh my gosh, Jambo Shango and the Randy Moles movie show are here. Oh, my dear friends. Oh, Jambo Shango and the Randy Moles movie show. That is one of the channels that I worship. Oh gosh, it's so nice to see you. I hope you're doing so well. Razor Wire Reviews is here. Our dear friend Luke at Razor Wire Reviews is here. It's nice to see you. Dunkelfester, hello. New to Daisuke's lovely channel. How are you? Oh, well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. It's nice to meet you. I hope you're well. And Razor Wire Review says that's the week made right there. Daisuke's Connery impression. Oh, oh gosh, thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment. Although I hope that's a good thing. I don't know, but my Connery impression isn't the best in the world, of course. But yeah, I love Connery. I love how his accent really sort of metamorphosizes throughout the Bond series. It's rather, I think it's very, how should I put it? Clean isn't the right word, but it has a certain sharpness. You know, like in Doctor No, when he said he sees Honey Rider emerge from the sea, and you know, underneath the mango tree, Mahani, and he just says underneath the mango tree, Mahani for some reason. Is it Mahani? I don't know, but and oh, I love him in Doctor No. What does he say? You know, someone asks what happened, and he says, "Oh, I think they're on their way to a funeral," or something like that. And you know, my favorite Sean Connery performance is The Untouchables, and I've done this impersonation before, but you know, it's late, and just before I go to sleep, I might as well let me burden your ears one more time. But there's, you know, the scene in The Untouchables where it's Elliot Ness and Malone, and they're talking, and he's, you know, they're talking in the church, and you know, he's asking Elliot Ness, you know, all right, you know, what are you willing to do, right? You know, because he's not going to, you know, end until one of you is dead, right? And so Elliot Ness has to be counseled as to how to get Al Capone. And so he says, you know, Elliot Ness says, I want to get Capone, right? He says, I want to get Capone, I don't know how to get him. And this is what Malone says, right? He says, you know, you want to get Capone? Here's how to get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how to get Capone. Right. And when he meets the Andy Garcia character for the first time, you know, well, what's your name? He says, you know, Stone. Stone. George Stone. You know, what's your name? And Andy Garcia says, oh, that is my real name. Says, nah. What was it before you changed it? You know. And I love that bit. I don't want to get into too many details or spoilers, but you know, there's a bit where he's, bookkeeper, what are you prepared to do? Oh, I love that. Oh gosh, The Untouchables. That is a great. You know, I was talking about Brian De Palma films one day. I don't know if I mentioned The Untouchables enough, but. That's great. So anyway, my friends, I'm going to end it there. So I am going to go to sleep. A damnful idealistic crusader. Hello, ha! I do a decent Kane and Connery and few rounds. Oh, you do a Kane. You do a Michael Caine. So you do me one better, my friend. Oh, I would love to see. You have to do, if you do your next live stream, Damnful Idealistic Crusader, my dear friend, you must share with us your Sean Connery and your Michael Caine. That would be really great. I can do, my Martin Scorsese isn't so good, but you know, I'm working on it. But my Martin Scorsese, this is Martin Scorsese. You remember the Akira Kurosawa film Dreams? And there's a moment where the person who we assume is Kurosawa, the adult Kurosawa, the young adult Kurosawa, is walking through the landscape of right, and meeting the painter, you know, Vincent van Gogh, the painter, who's played by Martin Scorsese, and he meets him in the field as he's in the middle of painting, and then Vincent van Gogh as Scorsese, or Scorsese as Van Gogh, turns to the young adult Kurosawa and he says, "Why aren't you painting? To me, this scene is beyond belief." So that's my Martin Scorsese as Vincent van Gogh in the Akira Kurosawa film Dreams. So that's a really poor impersonation of Martin Scorsese. But anyway, my friends, I will be leaving now because it's very late and I should be going to sleep soon. So, Damnful Idealistic Crusader, please please share with us your Michael Caine and your Sean Connery the next time you have the chance during your great live streams. And if you haven't checked out Damnful Idealistic Crusader's live streams, you should, because he is a gentleman who knows his stuff. He knows his stuff and then some. He is just he knows his technical stuff about releases, and he knows the substance about the films, and is just a really wonderful wonderful guy. And oh, before I go, Mike Eli, thank you so much for your super chat of $9.99. My goodness, I apologize so much. You know, I went I went through the chat and I didn't even acknowledge you in the chat when that happened, and so I apologize for not acknowledging you at the time. I apologize for that. I'm just noticing it now, so thank you very much. That's very kind of you. It's, you know, it's of course unnecessary. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but the sentiment is something that I really appreciate, and I am very grateful for that. You didn't. I know that you didn't have to do that, but you did. So thank you very much. Very kind of you, my dear friend. Very kind. And so with that, my friends, I must start to go. So I hope you are well, and oh yeah, razor wire reviews just to end. So that's very kind of you. Where has this hidden talent come from all of a sudden? Love it. Oh gosh, you know, I don't talk about it was called the WWF when I was growing up. You know, it's now the WWE, but I don't talk about it very much. I do talk about it a little bit, but I remember I was able to do. I won't share it with you, but I could. I thought I could do a good impersonation. Do you remember the wrestler Earthquake? And I could do. It was okay. I could do an impersonation of gosh, why am I blanking? I don't want to do it now, but oh gosh, I don't think I could be able to do it now. The snarl, the Ultimate Warrior snarl. Every time he'd give a little speech, a pre-recorded speech, and he'd end it with a snarl. I thought I could do that very well. I haven't done it recently, but I don't use this YouTube channel to talk about wrestling. I'm not an expert in professional wrestling, but I did watch a fair bit of. It was called the WWF at the time, and I remember I was so traumatized. I don't know if you know the bit where it was that rivalry between Earthquake and Jake the Snake Roberts, and Earthquake pulled out Damien the Snake, and I don't. What transpired afterwards between Earthquake and Jake the Snake Roberts and Damien the Snake is something that I will never forget ever. It was one of the most shocking things I ever saw. But yeah, and I remember I was watching WWF on TV, and I remember I saw the thing. It wasn't live, I don't think, but was it live? I forget. But it was I remember the first broadcast of the thing, the bit where Macho King had become Macho Man. He returned to Macho Man status after having lost to the Ultimate Warrior, and then he and Elizabeth got back together, and then they went into the squared circle, and remember he proposed to Miss Elizabeth in the middle of the ring, and he said, you know, Elizabeth, right? He didn't say Elizabeth, but he said Elizabeth. Right. I love that. He was on his knee and he said, Elizabeth, will you marry me? Right. And I was cheering, and then there was a little bit of pause. You didn't quite know what was going to happen. And you saw Miss Elizabeth's face, and then the microphone was to her face, and you were just waiting for her response. And Macho Man was so nervous, and then there was a pause, and then suddenly you heard her response. Oh yeah! Ah, that was great. That was great. Fun times, right? Better times, of course. Of course, we know what happened to the relationship afterwards, and but of course, better times. Better times. So anyway, my friends, I pity the yes. Anyway, my friends, sorry about that. Oh yes, so yes, crossing my fingers for a Macho Man in person. Okay, so you got your wish. I hope it wasn't too disappointing. So, slap into a Criterion. You know, I never had. You know, did I have a Slim Jim when I was younger? I forget. I remember those commercials, right? Those are great. Actually, no. I think about. I never had a Slim Jim. But I did have. I did see those commercials a lot. Snapping. I remember I had those. They had those pillows. Do you remember those pillows? And they were in the shape of the wrestlers, and so you could pretend to like wrestle them or something. It was kind of weird. They had what did they have, like Mr. Perfect, and what did he say before he would do his finishing move? He'd do his thing with the gum before he'd enter the ring, and he'd do his thing with he'd hit the gum in the air, and then he'd say in the ring before he'd do his finishing move, and now you're gonna see a perfect plex. Is that what he said? I forget. It's been so long since I thought about Mr. Perfect. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm just going over. So anyway, my friends, thank you very much for your time and patience, and I will be in touch with you very soon about the the Criterion Collection favorites poll, the viewers poll. So I will be in touch with you very soon about that. Thank you very much to those of you also. I'm sorry if I didn't address your questions today. I'm doing the very best I can, but if I missed your question, I didn't answer it fully to your satisfaction, I sincerely apologize. It wasn't my intention, but I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your commitment and support. If you want to reach me, you can always leave comments here, there, or everywhere, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. So once again, my apologies if I didn't address your comments directly here today. But again, it's just it's nice to see you, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. So cheers, my friends, and be well, be safe, and have a great rest of your day wherever you are. So thank you. All right, I'm done. So the microphone is off, but I know the camera's still on, so I'm just gonna start to. Right. Thank you very much, my friends, for joining me. That was really nice. Yes. Well, Martin Benza said you weren't missing anything. My friend had the pillows. You're really okay. So I wasn't. My memory wasn't inaccurate with respect to that. So, oh great. So I'm glad to know that that wasn't. I remember also there were those like action figures. I remember when those. I was such a big. But the action figures, when you got them, they were a little bit weird in terms of their like anatomical physique. Like the arms would be like they would try to have these little gimmicks with the action figures. You could like swing or something like that. So, but it would be really weird in terms of the arms would be over like too large, or they wouldn't be proportioned to the size of the rest of the body of the action figures. I remember that very much. Did they have like Dusty Rhodes or um, um, Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase or uh, gosh, they must have had. I know they had an Ultimate Warrior. They had a Hulk Hogan. I remember that. Did they have Andre the Giant as well? Maybe they did. I forget. Um, I did mention this in one of the John Carpenter videos when I was talking in brief about They Live. I remember that was the time of the Royal Rumble, and Ric Flair was, I think, the first participant in that Royal Rumble. Is maybe it was, I want to say 94, 93. Am I right? 93? Maybe I'm wrong, but it was around that time. It was Ric Flair and the British Bulldog, Davy Boy Smith, and they were I think they were the first two contestants, or not participants, to start the Royal Rumble. And then they were doing the Royal Rumble. More people would come in, and more people would get eliminated. And then through the whole brouhaha, like I don't know, maybe around the 17-minute mark or so. I could be wrong, but then we had uh, uh, Ric Flair alone in the ring, and we're waiting for the next participant to come in, and the buzzer sounded, and who would it be? Lo and behold, it was none other than Roddy Piper. And he just ran down in his blue trunks, and he ran down the aisle to the ring, and he just went into the ring, and he hesitated. I remember he was like, Ric Flair was so tired, he was exhausted, um, Roddy Piper was fresh, and so he was ready, and they had a rivalry, and so he was ready, and he was going to go at him, but just before he kind of looked up, and he was like excited, and he got himself worked up, and he's like, ah, and then he went to work at him. So that was a really great time. So I forget who won that Royal Rumble, but I remember Roddy Piper in the context of They Live, the John Carpenter film, which I will be talking about very soon. Anyway, my friends, sorry about that extra detour, but anyway, thank you very much, and I will talk to you very soon. So thank you, and please be well. Thank you. Cheers.